Well, hello everybody. It is Wednesday, July 7th, I believe, and I thought it was time to do a video. Haven't done one for a while, but I've got really good excuses. I've had some medical issues I've had to deal with here the last 6 to 8 weeks. An MRI and 2 surgeries, all related to a issue that just kind of developed overnight with my right eye that basically, had I not got it corrected, I could have went blind. So needless to say, that kind of took top priority, and my final, hopefully, surgery was last Friday, June 2nd, and I am now sitting here in my garage fish room, looking at my 1,000-gallon with the umbies and jags and a host of baby red devils that have been being raised in this tank here for a few months. There's the female parent right there. The male, I don't know where he's at the moment, but I think I did a video here a few months ago when you could see the parents with their fry, and this is the 18 or so little guys that survived and have they're all in various states of changing to orange. I love it when they're in kind of that mid state. Like, I'm going to go a little closer. You can see that guy right there. Little red devils are really one of my favorite fish, and it's really fun to watch them grow and develop in a big tank like this. And you can see that guy is little not quite as far along, and of course this one and that one over there are already completely orange. So we've got them in a host of different colors at this point in time. I'll have to apologize for the quality of the water and the way my tanks look right now. With all the medical issues I've had and the surgeries, I am not able to do much at the moment. Luckily, with my wife's help and my son coming in from New York to visit for about 8 days, he's kind of helped me with some of the tanks too, and some of the stuff I can't really do. They're not as bad a shape as they would be. We're going to sort of swing around to these various tanks as I just yak. Anyway, what prompted me to do this video, other than the fact that I now have a lot of free time on my hands, the surgeries that I have require me to basically do nothing and just take it easy for about 5 weeks. So I'm paying attention to what the ophthalmologists and the surgeons have said, and of course my wife will probably beat me to death if I try to do any kind of exercise, which is hard for me. I have been a lifelong, very active person. I was basically a basketball gym rat for 40 plus years, and then I turned to running when I turned about 55 and could no longer really compete in basketball as I got too old and too slow, and my knees got too wasted from all those years. Anyway, but they won't let me run. They won't even let me walk walk like a few miles a day or anything. I have to pretty much stay in my house for the better part of 5-6 weeks. I did get to go see Wonder Woman a couple days ago, and I was really thrilled with the movie. I believe the actress's name is Gal Gadot. She was really sensational as Wonder Woman. Very attractive young woman, and very athletic and capable, and there was a lot more to her than just her looks. The movie was really good. I thought it was a kind of a nice twist to see a woman as the hero of the day, so to speak, and all the men kind of following her. And it was a good movie with an interesting premise. And anyway, this isn't a movie podcast, so we'll get away from that. But since that was my first time I got to go out and do anything, it was kind of kind of fun to be sitting there with my wife and my son, who again came from New York to stay for a few days, or about 9 days actually. And we're sitting there just a few days after my surgery that kept my eyesight, which I'm quite grateful for. And here I am now, 5 days later, recovering and just kind of enjoying the way things are. The other thing that what really prompted me to do this video, I'm getting off on a tangent here, is, and by the way, this is the 270, and you can see a red devil, and there's some spillum, some spilum, gramotes, islanum, what have you. And again, apologize for the tank. It's not quite as clean or up to my standards, but hopefully you guys can understand. Now back to why I really started this video. I had a comment on one of my other videos from Rosa, and Rosa, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name, but hopefully you know who you are. And Rosa had asked me in the comments whether it was okay to house a variety of large cichlids in a 1,000-gallon tank. Specifically, I think she wanted to know if she could house 2 males, I think it was 2 male and 5 female red devils, a male and 3 female Dovies, and then I believe it was 1 male and 3 female hyatensis in a 1,000-gallon tank together. And I addressed her comment by just saying that's way too complicated a question to just ask to address in the comments section. So I figured I'd do a video since I have all this extra free time. And in fact, I'm going to suggest that if anybody has any questions that they have, fairly significant type questions, for about 5-6 weeks, I'm going to not have a lot I can do. So if you ask me any questions, I will address them in video form as opposed on comments, at least if I, as best I can. So send me some questions and we'll get more videos, I guess, if you want. Anyhow, so back to Rosa's question. Again, that's pretty complicated, but I would have told you a few years ago that there would be no way in heck that you could keep a male Dovii with any other fish. I have, as you know, kept Dovies for 40 years or so, and for the most part, they have been isolated in a 600-gallon tank, pair isolated, and I've had some very aggressive, very large males and thousands of fry spawn over the years. It was only by a fluke about 2-3 years ago when a buddy of mine, Calvin, and I've told this story already, so I'll keep it short, but basically he was catching fry for me out of a 600, and he was going to keep some and take some to a store that we were selling and or giving them to at the time. And we were also netting out some baby red devils in another 600-gallon tank. So somehow Calvin had inadvertently left a little Dovii fry who was probably, an inch long at the time, and inadvertently it was still in the net when he went to get some red devils, and the fish was released into the other 600-gallon tank. And of course no one knew about it. Well, eventually, as time went by, I saw a little Dovii in that tank, and I was stunned and kind of had to go backwards to figure out how it got there. But it got there nonetheless, and it's been in there ever since, and it is now in a tank with large red devils, chanchos, midas, what have you, basically various Amphilophus, and it is doing quite well. And I believe the reason that has worked is the Dovii was a 1-inch fry when he was introduced into this 600-gallon tank with a lot of already adult various Amphilophus species. So he's kind of, acclimated to that environment. And of course now he's much, much larger than all the other fish. And while he does dominate the tank, he has not become especially aggressive, and he hasn't really ever taken after any of the fish as far as trying to kill them or attack them. He is definitely goes where he wants and takes the prime caves and what have you, but as far as being vicious with the other fish, it hasn't been an issue. So based on that experience, my answer to that question for Rosa is it depends. And that's kind of the good and the bad, the fun, the yin and the yang of aquariums. There is no cut and dried answers. These are animals. While their behavior is not as plastic as mammals or people, they still have the ability to behave in a variety of ways, and it just depends on the environment. So let's talk about Rose's particular question. 1,000 gallons is a big tank. You can get away with a lot in 1,000 that you can't get away with in a 250 or a 100. It also depends on the dimensions of the 1,000 gallons. If most of the dimensions in a tank is from the depth, the height of the tank, that's not going to be as good for minimizing cichlid aggression and being able to keep a variety of different species in the same tank as it would be if most of that 1,000 gallons was based on square feet, length and width, which is much more important than height when you're talking about trying to keep a lot of cichlids, especially cichlids like Doviis and devils, together. So first rule of thumb is the bigger the tank, the more likely you're going to be able to get away with things that you can't get away with in smaller tanks. That's pretty obvious, I guess, but it is probably the number one critical factor. Secondly, the dimensions of the tank, not just the gallonage, but the dimensions. The longer and wider the tank is, the better chance that you're going to get away with, again, having some various aggressive species living together. Second thing, hiding places. The more hiding places, and we're concentrating on this Simspilum for some reason. I just find it fascinating right now. So eventually we'll move to some other fish, but that's what my eyes caught me on right now. Anyway, hiding places is another critical factor in what you can get away with. You want not only a lot of hiding places, but you want hiding places where the bigger fish can't go. So, for example, if you have a 2-foot Dovii and you have a pair of, say, 14-inch chanchos, and the chanchos are spawning or are trying to spawn, the Dovii may very well prevent them from spawning just by being a physical presence in that tank. However, that can be minimized by having some caves that the chanchos can fit in that the Dovii is too big to fit in, as an example. In that situation, it's more likely that you will have the Doviis and the chanchos, or the red devils, or the hyatensis, or whatever you want to pick, survive together in a fairly reasonable way in a large tank. So that's another thing to consider. We're going to move away from that guy now, and maybe we'll go down over to this other 270 over here. That was the 270 with the, like I said, the Islanums and the Simspilum and what have you. Now we're going to the Ornatums and Atromaculatums and what have you. So that's that. Another factor to consider is, other factors to consider are things like temperature, feeding, water changes. These all have impacts on how well or not well you're going to get away with having a variety of aggressive cichlids living together. The more you feed them to a degree, the less aggressive they will be with each other, because a fat Dovii is a happy Dovii. He's not going to be looking at other fish thinking, maybe he's a good snack, as an example. Temperatures. If you make the temperature in the tank, let's say 80 degrees, there's going to be more aggression in that tank than if the temperature is, say, 75 degrees. Now at 80 degrees, you're going to be better at getting chanchos, dovis, hyatensis, etc. to spawn, but you're also going to be maximizing potential aggression. So you have to decide if you're going to have a 1,000-gallon tank like Rosa wants with all these various aggressive cichlids. It may be a better idea to keep the temperature lower to minimize aggression, but if you want to spawn, of course, you're going to have to raise that temperature. So there's that little conundrum there, and it just kind of is going to have to depend on the person and what they value the most in this particular tank. Now, a safer way to do it would be to have only males in that 1,000-gallon tank, Rosa, and to have your male Dovii and your male Midas and hyatensis and what have you, and have the females in a different tank. That would definitely minimize aggression due to different species, trying to breed and pick a territory for spawning and what have you. Of course, I realize that if you have a 1,000-gallon tank, that may be the very reason you want to do it. You may want to spawn and have the interaction. So again, it's just a question of your priorities. You can still spawn the fish if they're in separate tanks. What you would want to do is, say you wanted to spawn Dovis, you'd catch the male and you'd catch a choice female and you'd put them together in a isolation tank, hopefully big isolation tank in the case of Dovii, no less than 300 gallons for spawning, and really I would be happier if you had like 500 gallons. But in any case, that's a way around those kinds of issues. So it's always tough when you have questions about people ask when there's no yes or no answer. There are other factors as well, but I'm coming up on 18 minutes on this particular video, so I guess I better stop. Rosa, I hope I've answered your question. I wish you all the luck with this. A 1,000-gallon tank with a variety of species is really, really fun and fascinating and very, very worthwhile. But you have to just be smart. And my final recommendation is, if you did it, I would recommend keeping the water around 75, 76. You can try raising it if you're really interested in spawning, but I would recommend doing that for a very short period of time. Try to, if you don't already have the 1,000-gallon tank made, try to get the length and width as much as possible. Height is not as important. Make sure there's plenty of rocks and driftwood and places for the fish to hide. Make sure you've got smaller rocks and caves for the smaller fish to get away from the larger Dovii. And I guess that's about it. Anyway, again, if anybody else has some questions as time goes by, leave me some comments and I will try to answer those questions in individual videos as we progress here. So I wish you guys all good fish keeping and peace, and I guess that's it from here. Talk to you soon.